Hi everyone, I'm Bianca.
And I'm Rosina, and welcome back to Twins in Stitches. We have a lovely sewing tutorial for you all today.
Yes, I'm going to run you through how to make this tiered summer dress. I use a really lovely light yellow gingham print, and you'll need about 2 to 3 meters for this project. So I'm super excited for you to follow along.
Lovely, so let's get started.
Here we have the front panel. For the front panel, the length is the same length as that from the top of your shoulder to the bottom of your bust. At the bottom of this is where you'd want the first tier to start. This, for me, was 32 centimeters, and I added 3 centimeters for seam allowance to give me 35. For the width, this is your bust measurement, and then I added 5 centimeters just to give it a bit of a looser fit, and I divided this by 2. So in total, this length was about 57 centimeters. Now, for the armhole, I measured from the top of my shoulder to the bottom of sort of my armhole, and I added a bit because I like a bit of a looser fit around the armpit area. So that was 25 centimeters, and I did about a 5 centimeter indentation. And for the size of the strap, I just measured from the edge of my shoulder to where the neck hole would finish, which was about 8 centimeters. For the neck hole, I measured from one collarbone to the other, and I got about 15 centimeters. Now we're going to need 2 of these, because as this is the bust area, you want to double up on fabric to make sure it's not see-through, and just to make it more comfortable. So that's all you need for the front panel. For the back panel, you cut the exact same thing, and you have 2 layers again. However, this time we put a slit through the middle, directly in half. This is done so that we can put buttons on one side and the clasp on the other to just shut it close. So it's super easy because it's the same measurement front and back. Like I said, we're doubling up on fabric. So we're going to do this by sewing on the wrong side and putting it inside out. So for this part, for the front panel, we're going to sew across the top on both sides and leave it at that. For the back panels, we're going to do the same and sew across the top, but we're also going to sew here down the middle. And this is because to give it a nice clean edge so that later we can put the buttons on. Do not sew the sides on either the front or the back, as we'll sew these together later. So now you're going to meet me at the machine. So we've just come off the machine and sewn the top of the top panels and the top and side of the back panels of both of them. So 2 back panels, 1 front panel. Now we're going to put everything inside out, so the right way round. Once we've turned all our panels inside out, we need to connect them. So we grab the front panel and we grab a back panel. If you've cut this out correctly, which I'm sure you have, this here, so the horizontal part right after the armhole, should link. So what we're going to do is I'm going to place one on top of the other, back panel on top of the front panel, and I'm going to pin on this side. I'll do the same for the other side. So now both sides are pinned, and that's looking great. And this here is the armhole now. That is why it's important to make the back section wider than the front section, because obviously we just sewed inwards which means that this removes some of the fabric on the back. So now we're going to sew on the sides and then we'll see how it looks. So I've sewed that all on now and I'm very happy with how it's looking. I'm going to now target the neckline. I'm going to turn over my work to the front and I'm going to fold this over. These match pretty well. I'm just going to fold it over 1, 2 times and place a pin. So this is how I just approach any raw edge. Fold it over 1 time, then 2 times. Yeah, and then you put a pin in place. So I've pinned all across the top and we're just gonna do a simple stitch on the machine. So after I've done the neckline, I'm going to go and do the armholes, just the same, folding it over twice, and I'll do that on both sides. In order to close the back, there are different things you can do. You can shirr fabric, use a zip, buttons. Today I'm going to use these snap fasteners. They're basically buttons. You just open from the pack. You can get these in quite literally any craft shop. And they go in like that. And they're super nice and discreet. This is what the top of a dress is looking like so far. This is the back. So I've marked here and here, once I've tried it on, the line I want to get the buttons on. So the snap fastener that goes on the bottom will go on the bottom layer. So this one. So I'm going to place one right near the top. This is the other half of that snap fastener. So I'm going to pop it here, with the whole side going to be able to directly insert into this one. Now I'm going to hand stitch those on. Hand stitch is important. If you try to use a machine, probably going to break the needle. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to start by threading a needle and just knotting the other end. I have doubled up on the thread just so that it's nice and secure. For the left hand side, I'm going to hold the snap fastener where I want. So this is where I want it at the top. So I'm going to, as you can see, the snap fastener has 1, 2, 3, 4 holes around it. This is where you sew. I'm going to start by placing this where I'd like. I'm going to bring the needle through the back. I'm going to bring the needle from the back through to the front. This might take a bit of trial and error and poking around. Perfect. So now I've got it in one of them. I'm going to go into the adjacent hole here. And I'm going to place the needle down through this hole and bring the thread to the back. Now I'm going to come up through the third hole. Again, the one right next door. So I come up through the third hole and go back down the second hole. Now I'm going to do the same for the fourth hole. I'll come up the fourth hole. Up through there and back down the third hole. Great. And now I'm going to go back up the first hole and back down the fourth hole. So you're coming up one hole, down the other. So down here. And I'm just going to go around and do this again, because with buttons, you're going to be washing your garment. If you're in a hurry, you're going to be taking it off quickly. They need to be put into place very, very securely. So up through 1, down through 2, up through 3, down through 2, up through 4, and down through 3. Great. That there is pretty secure. So now you can see, is that secure enough? You might want to give it a few more. You can also, to make it extra secure, you can go right outside on the fabric next to the hole and come back in through the hole next door. So you come up outside of the metal next to the hole and come down through the hole. And you can just do this twice on every hole. And this is just really, really going to make sure that the buttons stay in place. So, yeah. Just going to do this around. Obviously, this is a bit of a tedious process to do to all the buttons, but it is worth it at the end. And also, if you don't like working with zips, this is a good way to do it. Perfect, so that is now super, super, super secure. Turn the work around. This is what it's looking like. Just going to bring the needle and push it through a bit of the fabric, but not coming through the first layer, because obviously there are 2 layers of fabric. I'm going to bring the needle up. This makes a tiny loop. I take the needle through the loop. I tighten the first loop and I bring it back through. I'm going to repeat that because that was kind of quick. Bring the needle here through the fabric. This is going to create a loop. You bring the needle down through the loop. And in doing this, you create a third loop. So you bring it through that loop. And done. And we're just going to continue. And there we have it. Do it about 3 times and you should be good to go. I'm going to go and cut that. So now we can see that's there in place on the left side. We have to do the right side now. For the right side, you want to make sure that the button obviously fits in really well. For the top, it's quite easy because it's just right at the top. So because this is the side you're actually going to be seeing, and the button does go this way, here we have 2 layers of fabric because we doubled up. We're just going to go through one of these layers, which I'll show you how to do now. So on the right hand side, as we can see, this fastener goes like that. So this is the side we want to expose. I'm going to place it at the top of the right panel, here. Great. Now I'm going to grab the needle and we're just going to be working through this front layer of fabric. To do this, we're going to start by inserting the needle into the fabric. We do this by simply just, you can sort of separate the fabrics like this. Great. And I'm just going to bring that through layer 1. Easy like that. Okay. Now I'm going to grab this here. And I'm just going to hide this underneath. I'm just going to come up through this hole, there, and back down through that first layer, here. For this one, it's easier just to work on the edges instead of the actual sort of top, here. Now this bit here, we can just easily tuck that underneath. I say easily is kind of tedious, but there. So once it's kind of tucked away, we're just going to do the method of going right from the outside fabric right into the middle, there. Now I've done that about 3 times. I'm going to move to the next one. And I'm going to do this by going down through layer 1 here. And it's just basically about knowing where your fabrics are separated, here. When it comes to this top hemmed line there, that's a bit easier. And to check if you're picking up the other side, you can always just check on the back that you have no needle showing. So I'm just going to sew, and sew. I'll do this to all 4. Now that both of these are ready, they just work together super nicely, and that's the first button. So I'm going to go ahead and put about 4, and I'll meet you. Once I've got my front panels done, I'm going to start on the first tier. Tiers are very simple. The measurement you take has to be 1.5 times the the width of the previous tier. For example, this is my front panel. I'm going to measure it. It measures 40 centimeters. This means that the width of the panel below is 60 centimeters, 40 times 1.5. For the length of the panel, so up to down, I'm just going to take the same measurement as that of this tier, excluding the arms. So that's 27 centimeters. I have thus cut a piece 60 centimeters in width and 27 centimeters in length. We're going to sew the left side and the right side, as I actually have already done, and then I'll meet you together. Now we have sewn both the left and right side, we are going to start gathering. To gather, you get the fabric and you're just going to, on one layer, sew it like this, and we're going to sew a straight line all the way across. So across here, here, all the way across the top layer. This stitch has to be quite a long stitch, so increase the stitch length on your machine. I have now done this line on the top with a looser stitch, so I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to find where we started, and when we started we have two threads, one on the top and one on the bottom. You're going to grab one of these threads, for instance one on the top, and pull it and try to move the fabric with it. So as I pull this, the fabric is already gathering, which is great. So we're just going to do this, and obviously we've done the 1.5 times 40. That's why the 1.5 comes in, because the gathering makes it smaller. So I'm just going to gather, and we want to gather until the front and back piece are 40 centimeters each, so that it fits nicely with the top piece. Great. So you just have to keep gathering and pulling. Do be very gentle, because if you snap it, you'll kind of have to unstitch and redo it, which is fine, but it's just very long. So I've done that various times, although not today, luckily. So let's pull and just really pull and make sure everything is gliding nicely. There. So I'm not sure about 40 centimeters, but you can always just do it for now and then I'll have to see. So that looks okay for now. Let me do the back piece. It should be able to kind of continually do. Perfect. So we've now gathered the fabric. It's looking great. I'm so excited. So as you can see, it's the same width as the top tier. So we have the top panel, the right side up. Now we have the bottom panel, the wrong side. And we insert the top panel through the bottom. And so now the good sides are facing, and we're going to pin. So here we're pinning to sew together. I would really recommend starting at the corner pieces, so getting both of those corners aligned here. One, two. Great. Once the rest is pinned, we're going to go on the machine and sew. So we're going to sew it like this, down. I want to say you want to sew above this line so that it does not show. So we do this for tier 1 and we continue through the tiers. The bottom tier stays the same, however the new tier we gather. And then we're going to do that, and then we should have our lovely tiers. I have now finished adding all the tiers to the dress. It is quite long. And so from the first one, I used 40 centimeters times 1.5, which was 60. 60 times 1.5, which was 90, 90 times 1.5, which was 135. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to hem the dress. So I ended up cutting this tier a bit shorter because otherwise the dress would be too long and I kind of want it a knee length. So I'm just going to do quite a bit of a generous hem because I do want it to be a bit shorter. So I'm going to show you how we can hem a dress. The fabric's here with the raw edge. We turn it all up and then we fold once and twice. And like I said, I'm doing a bit of a generous one because I do want it to be shorter. There. Great. And now I'm going to go and do this to the whole dress. So, here. We're just moving along, and because the last panel, like this last tier, for me, the front was 1.35 meters, it's going to take a small while because the whole thing is going to be about 2.1 meters. So I'm going to continue throughout the whole thing and then we'll clean up the raw edges. The final step really is to close off these raw edges. As we can see, the edges are fraying, so in order to do this, if you have a serger, that's great, use that. I don't have one, so easy. I'm just going to use the zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. So it's this one, number 13, this kind of zigzag, and I'm going to slightly increase the stitch length as well, and I'm just going to go over all of the raw edges. The dress is done now. It looks gorgeous. I am so happy with how it turned out, and I'm so glad you could follow along.
So thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you managed to make a dress of your own.
Do share this video with someone who you know would like to make their own summer dress, and do stay tuned as we do have a lot of other sewing videos up and coming. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!